Now I'm at the point you wanna be with me. I'm vibing out at a higher frequency, cause everything that I want and I'm gonna be, it's when I wake up, that's when I start to dream. Someone you love is talking down, here is the plan. Let it fall through like a handful of sand. Nothing happens overnight, what you must understand. If you dwell on the bad, then you don't stand a chance. Something you want upset, saying why it ain't mine yet. That's because now you have yet to change your mindset. People don't put their mind to rest while they're so wired. A lot of people go to sleep and wake up tired. Power of positivity and persistence. Say that I can, we'll just sit back and witness. Make an impact when our time is done. Make money, help people, and have lots of fun. Whoa.
Welcome to Office Hours, hosted by legendary sports executive, entrepreneur, and investor David Meltzer, where the brightest millionaires, billionaires, and entrepreneurs in business, sports, and entertainment get together to talk about success, failure, and everything in between.
You have the responsibility of providing value to them.
Take a deep dive into the mind of some of the world's most impactful guests.
Really, the goal isn't to be disciplined. The goal is for it to be intuitive.
To share their strategies and tools to dominate their respective fields.
Just decided I'm going to prove them wrong because I feel like this is progressive. This is something that is new and different.
David Meltzer hosts Office Hours.
On scaling a business. And I think a lot of people have great grandeurs about building or starting a business and have a lot of difficulty when they have success in scaling it, or wondering why they can't scale and feel stuck in their business, and which leads to all types of interference as well. But before I get into scaling the business, I have probably one of the greatest moderators, the youngest moderator here on Breakfast of Champions, my man, Jakey Bakey. Good morning.
Good morning. Hola, David. Welcome back.
Hola.
Mexico. Hola. Welcome. Thank you for that introduction. And I will quickly set the room here on Clubhouse for everybody on here. As Dave mentioned, he's been doing free Friday training for over 23 years. Welcome, everybody. Today's topic that Dave will be talking about is how to scale a business. So he'll do that for about 30 minutes, and then we'll be taking on some guests as well. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, just feel free to raise your hand or back channel me. As mentioned, the topic is how to scale a business today. Let's take a quick second here to invite your friends, invite your family, invite the whole community on Clubhouse. Let's share the room. You can do that at the bottom. There's a square with an arrow. You can share the room on all your favorite social media platforms. And then, of course, here on Clubhouse. Let's share the room. Share with everyone here on Clubhouse and the Breakfast with Champions. Share it on all your favorite social media platforms, text messages. And let's follow the people next to you, follow the people on stage, and continue to build out this.
Good morning.
So, with that in mind, Dave, I will pass it back off to you, and let's have a great training today. Thank you, everyone.
Right on. Well, good morning again for everyone. We are going to train about scaling a business. And the first part about scaling a business is knowing your timing and risk tolerance for your business, setting your own expectations of how long it will take and how big you want the business to be. And I think a lot of people skip the first step. As I said, they have these visions of grandeur on how they're going to scale their business, but those visions are not specific in the timing of how big they want it to be or bigger. And it creates a lot of resistance in the fact that we're trying to do something at a speed which may or may not be realistic, or at a speed that creates resistance, meaning that when we attach our emotions that I want to be this big by this time, instead of I want to double the size of my business as fast as I can, and understanding that we ourselves are the only ones that limit ourselves by either the meaning of the failures, mistakes, setbacks, defining moments, successes, historical references of our past, or even more importantly, the limitation occurs through the self-imagery that we have, and that imagery carries forward into fear of success or worthiness or other issues that always rear their ugly heads when we are looking at scaling a business. After we have our timing and risk tolerance, and I'll be more than happy to give a guide at the end of this to everyone on scaling your business, and I'm happy to send my book with it as well. So I'll sign that, send it to you, pay for the book, shipping, and the guide, not a problem. But please think about the timing and risk tolerance and how you determine that. Where you live, how old you are, how many kids you have. There's a variety of variables involved in understanding before you set forth in scaling the business that could create this interference or avoid shortages, obstacles, or mistakes that will accelerate in the wrong trajectory. And so if we haven't taken into consideration whether we're married or not, whether we want to get married or not, who we want to get married, where we want to live, how many children we have, how many children we want to have, are we going to have a child sooner or later? If we're not taking in consideration these things, they will directly affect or create interference from or interference with the scaling of our business. So the first step in scaling a business is knowing our timing and risk tolerance, not creating or attaching our emotions to an outcome by creating resistance to that, but simply look in velocity and speed and scope and scale when we scale a business by knowing our timing and risk tolerance. The first phase of scaling a business is the learning phase. And the learning phase includes one, recruitment. And recruitment is a essential component of scaling a business. I always say ABH, always be hiring, and have a methodology of hiring. For me, it's 3 stages of learning. There's a shadowing stage of learning, which is an internship. And then there's a shadowing of some sort of contract relationship. And then there's an employee relationship. And indicative in that is the context of watching somebody. And this is a big investment to make. And it's probably the biggest mistake in recruitment is that people are not recruiting for the shadowing. They're recruiting for profit. And we've skipped 2 phases of scaling a business. If you're recruiting to bring someone in and assume they're going to be profitable day one, it's going to create a whole bunch of resistance between you and that person. And it will affect one of the later things that we're teaching, which is retention and engagement. So let's start with recruitment. Recruitment should be in the aspect of knowing values and getting value alignment, and then vetting or determining skills. And so when we recruit people, we should only be looking at, do they have similar aligned synergistic values to that which we've set forth as a business, and then looking at the skills or capabilities or teachability or coachability of the person that we are recruiting to create phase 1, which is the learning phase, which is an expensive phase in the short term, but it's the least expensive way to scale your business. And so when we're looking to scale, we scale a business by bringing people in with similar values, taking an investment. For me and my business, it's a 90-day process. So we recruit off of values, we recruit off of gratitude. So we know that that person has the same perspective. We hire people that look for the light, the love, and the lessons in other people, other situation, other circumstances, other events, etc. It's the number 1 value which we recruit for. The second one is forgiveness. We recruit forgiving people. And the reason we recruit forgiving people is, one, they are much more supportive and get along with other people who are trying their best, learning lessons and having fun within the context of the business, which allows us to make more money, help more people, and have more fun as well. But if you're not forgiving, it's going to be difficult to try things and learn things, and to forgive others for trying things and learning things. And so forgiveness is a key component in the recruitment process of alignment of values in the learning phase, in order to facilitate the foundational principles to scale a business, to have a strong foundation so that you can build 100, 300, $1 billion business. I see so many people recruit for profit and not recruit for values, and they skip the learning phase. They recruit for profit and they go right to an execution phase of scalability, and they wonder why they have so much disparate energy, as well as why they're not as efficient, effective, or statistically successful as they could be. The third value, which has 3 phases in itself, is accountability. And so we recruit people who are accountable. They're responsible. Number one, they understand the law of attraction. So I call them, they're attractionable, meaning they are aware that likes attracts like, and that they want to attract the business, the right people, the right circumstances, situation, and events for themselves and the business. And then the more difficult one in recruitment, in the phase of learning and investment in this learning phase, is specifically the participation that they are in their own perception. And all of these 3 values, gratitude, accountability, and forgiveness, they're easy to interview for. We just have to ask the right questions. And a lot of times we don't ask those questions about what would you do in this situation. And it's very easy to depict if someone has the gracious perspective of finding light, love, and lessons in it, if they are forgiving and accountable, whether that be responsible, doing what they say, right? We want to have impeccable words. Are they attracting the right things in their life, right? They're going to tell you about positive things in their lives that they're attracting. And then the third is, how are they participating in the perception? So their lives comparatively may not be that good, but their perception of their lives is at a highest level. And so all 3 of these are extremely important in the recruitment process to start the investment, to make sure that you're getting the ROI in the learning phase, where someone is simply shadowing you. And then the final value is effective communication. And effective communication is not only the ability to communicate to others within the organization, whether it be you, your employees, associates, managers, executives, clients, vendors, etc., but how effectively are they communicating with their source? How inspired are they? Are they focused in on the shortages, voids, and obstacles, or do they have a hopeful perspective? Do they have a faithful perspective that they're being protected and promoted? And are they capable of doing their best, learning lessons and having fun even when things get challenging? And are they capable of doing that consistently? Or do they go the extra mile every once in a while and then justify why they aren't where they're supposed to be because they went to extra mile every once in a while? These values and the recruitment process create a great investment in the foundation of a business that allows it to scale to an incredible size. And if we don't have that foundation, we will find it very expensive to do so. Now, it's not impossible, but I would rather spend my time making money than raising money to hire people, to find the right people with the right values, to get what most companies get, which is 80% of the productivity from 20% of the people. I'd rather get 80% of the people giving me 800% productivity. and then deal with the other 20%, which I call lettuce washers, to allow for administrative and other turnover that is just human nature within the context of a business. This phase, the learning phase, is about recruitment of values and then allowing those people that we recruit in because of gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, and effective communication to simply watch and ask questions for a period of time. It may sound expensive to do, but it's the similar situation of the guy who's cutting down trees and spends 80% of his time sharpening his axe and 20% of the time cutting down the trees because it's a lot easier. It's the exact same analogous situation where we are recruiting the people by values and then allowing them to shadow and pick up the nuances of what we do, either their mentor or others within the company. But I believe that to be essential to scale, that you have to know your timing and your risk tolerance in order to effectuate that type of investment, to predetermine the scalability of a business instead of taking the expensive route of catching up or reacting to the success that you have and applying the 80-20 rule. Instead, apply the 80-800 rule, which will allow you to create far greater margins, make more money, help more people, and have more fun, and build a business. And so that first phase is essential of knowing your timing and risk tolerance, understanding recruitment of values, and then making the investment of a simple shadowing period where they just watch and ask questions. The second stage or phase of scaling a business is the execution phase. And now this comes at a point where the person works with you. And our goal is, for my company, is to create an exponentiality of profitability. So if I pay an employee now, because we went through an internship phase, a contractor phase, and then into an employee phase, my goal is to have an exponentiality of profit with that person by either me or their manager or director or executive working with them to create exponential profit. So if we pay someone $100,000, they will be quantifiably measured to be able to hit a X3 or X10 or X20 of what we pay them, determinative upon their value of their skills and their knowledge, knowing that their values are aligned completely with the company. And this is how we scale a business. As you know, they watch us and then we work with them, that allows them someday to supervise and have someone shadow them. Scaling occurs in two different ways. One, by money, by hiring people who already have the skills and the knowledge, but may not have the values, or it scales by people. And I prefer the people methodology because it creates way bigger margins and way bigger impact in what we do, and a lot more homogeneous synergy in the capabilities as well as the desires. And this is a longer approach. It's aligned with my timing and risk tolerance. But this phase of working with is a phase where you have your managers, directors, and executives working with this recruited person. And the goal is retention and engagement. Over 90% of the employees in the world are not engaged. We talked last week about the Great Realization, which is still notated there on the training that we've been doing. But it's the Great Realization is that technology allows people not to be engaged in the business. I think a lot of executives have no idea of the power of technology and how productive technology allows people not to be engaged, because they're going around and checking their email real quickly on their phone, while they're playing golf, going to coffee, hanging out with their friends, or on TikTok or whatever else they're doing. The only way that you can get an employee to be engaged is to have them have the desire to be what they can be, have them be the desire to be their best, to do their best, to learn lessons. It has to be far greater than just a paycheck. And unfortunately, most people live their lives like tubes, food in, food out, 9 to 5, going the extra mile every once in a while, and truly going through the motions every single day, which leads to wanting to leave. And if you think the shadowing period, the learning stage is expensive, try not retaining employees or clients or vendors. The least expensive way to be successful is to manage and develop a vision. And in order to do so, you need to provide that value and take the time to make sure that your system exposes people for utilizing technology to pretend that they're engaged. And so it's really important in the retention process to make sure that you're in constant communication with and utilizing systems to expose people. And one of the best ways to keep retention and to expose people is via the calendar. Using simple things to check in and see how engaged and aligned people are in the business model is to require them to know what's going on via the calendar. And those people that don't know, how engaged could you be in your business if, for example, you don't know the activities that you get paid for, or you don't know how you get paid? Another one that I use is I create an incentive system. I do monthly bonuses, and it's amazing, to have people tell me how engaged they are and they want to make more money. And I'll ask them, terrific, I have an incentive plan. How can we make more money? What are the 5 components of the incentive plans? I don't know. Well, key exposure awareness to an employee not being engaged. And the risk is, if they're not engaged, that you're not going to retain them. And that becomes a very, very expensive thing. So not only do you avoid the 80-20 rule by having a learning phase, not only do you avoid the 80-20 rule by hiring for values, not for profit, but by utilizing a stage of execution, meaning execution model of having someone working with someone, understanding the incentives, understanding time. We now also avoid the 80-20 rule as well. And when we're in the 80-800 rule, everybody makes more money, everybody helps more people, and everyone has more fun. And very few people want to leave when they're in the 80-800 compared to the 80-20. You're 20-80 rule. Sorry. So when 20% of the people do our 80% of the productivity, you risk losing the other 80% of the people. When 80% of the people are doing 800% of the productivity, you only risk losing 20% of the people. And the good news is the people that you lose are lettuce washers. They're easily replaceable. They're not the type of people that are going to be engaged. They're not wanting to learn. They're going through the motions, or they're just not capable. And then you've just revealed, hopefully, some of the recruitment deficiencies that you may have in making sure that you recruit in that manner. And so knowing our timing and risk tolerance, understanding recruitment and retention by having a learning phase where people shadow you and go from internship to contractor, then become employees by working with each other and giving each other mutual advice and being and utilizing the values and creating an 80-800 rule instead of a 20-80 rule, where 20% of the people do 80% of the business and you risk losing 80% of the people. But you need to know the timing and risk tolerance for the investment stage, that learning stage or phase, compared to the execution stage. Now, the final stage, before we bring on some people here today, the final stage is the equity stage. So the best part about the scaling process and scaling a business, if you use this methodology instead of hiring for profit, hiring for values, concerned about retention and recruitment, and understanding the learning in the execution phase, is the equity phase now allows you to thrive. And this is where the speed, the velocity of scalability catches up and then compounds past that of those who hire for profit. Those who hire for values and create the correct foundations have a doubling and exponentiality effect compared to the lack of capability. The only way to grow if you hire for profit is to keep hiring more people for profit. The best thing about this type of scaling, from the learning phase to the execution into an equity phase, is that you now have a scalable model where those people who shadowed and then worked with now can be shadowed. So as that happens, you now have all these tree branches of people that people can shadow. Still, they can recruit, they can retain. And now not only do you have a scalable model, having people who understand and are synergistic and aligned with the core values and incentives of the program that are utilizing the 80-800 rule, not the 20-80 rule. But now those people can exponentially make more money, help more people, and have more fun because they have a group of people below them producing 80-800 comparatively to 20-80. And now you have a scalable company that's exponential and aggregate in its nature. It's attracting more of like-minded people as you've taken the time, knowing your timing and risk tolerance, in order to invest in the appropriate people during the learning stage and then retain those people in the execution stage. Now the business scales in the equity stage, where those people not only are producing at an 80-800 level, not a 20-80 level, but more importantly, they are capable excuse me, of recruiting more people like themselves and aggregating more people like themselves and creating the exponential equity stage that builds a business. Does it take longer? Absolutely. But the statistical success compared to the amount of money it takes to scale a business by hiring for profitability instead of building for profitability is far greater and statistically far more successful. The only advantage of hiring for profitability is speed in which you can become profitable. Every other component, the three-phase model of learning phase, execution, and equity allows you to be bigger, stronger, more successful, sustainable than anything else. But there's very few companies that can either raise enough money or make enough money to hire for profit. In order to scale a business or hire for profit, you have to be able to raise a ton of money or make a ton of money. And as you see with different companies that scale quickly, you get tons of challenges and you don't get retention. That's why big companies who have raised a lot of money or made a lot of money have to lay off tens of thousands of people because they didn't hire for values. They didn't have a learning phase. They didn't have an execution phase. And they don't have scalability of an equity phase where they have enough people to be shadowed in order to make sure, instead of working within the context of 20% of the people are 80% productive, they're in the phase of, when you build by this methodology, of 80% of the people do 800% of the productivity comparatively. You can see the size, scope, and scale and the longevity, the sustainability of this methodology. If you recall, the number one thing you have to do up front is know your timing and risk tolerance. So if you have a short time and a high risk tolerance than try to make a lot of money or raise a lot of money. If you have a longer vision like I do, and you want to build a foundation that allows you to scale from $1 million to 10 million to 30 million to 100 million to 300 million to $1 billion, it will take a little bit more time. But this model allows you to continue to recruit the right people, retain the right people, and in the end, you will still be here because you've hired for values, not for profit. Scaling a business can be done in two different ways, via people or money. Know your timing and risk tolerance. Focus in on the recruitment of values, gratitude, forgiveness, accountability, effective communication. Have a learning phase where you know how much time and how much investment you're going to make in each intern, contractor, then employee, to shadow the people, to vet out the skills and knowledge, and most importantly, establish the desire. When you do so, we now have a bunch of employees working with each other in the execution phase at 80% of them producing 800% productivity instead of 20% of them creating 80% of productivity. And through that process, it scales because those people eventually hit an equity stage where they can be shadowed, they can be worked with, and they can scale other people in the same direction. They can recruit and retain at the same capacity that you can. This is how we scale a business. If anyone would like to get that exercise on scaling a business, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I also throw in, as always, my books, guides, exercises. I'll sign a book, send it to you, pay for the book and shipping, david@dmeltzer.com. All right, Jake, we're bringing Jeff Stevens on, but why don't you reset the room real quickly, and we'll bring Jeff on.
You got it. Thank you so much, Dave. That was the how to scale a business topic here on the Breakfast with Champions. If anyone wants a guide for scaling a business, David is one of those two. So you can email him. His email is david@dmeltzer.com, david@dmeltzer.com. We'll put that in the chat as well. If anyone wants the how to scaling a business guide. Just quickly resetting the room here. We are in the Breakfast with Champions. It is Friday. It is the 6 a.m. Pacific time. David Meltzer's hour here on Clubhouse and many other social channels. Dave's been doing free Friday training for over 23 years. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, there may be some time, so feel free to raise your hand or back channel me, and we will aim to bring you up. And let's continue to share the room here on Clubhouse and all your favorite social media channels. You can do that at the bottom. There's a square with an arrow. And let's continue to share the room. So, Dave, I'll pass it back off to you, and let's bring up Jeff Stevens online.
You got it. All right, let's welcome to Friday Trading Office Hours the incredible Jeff Stevens. Welcome. How are you doing, Jeff?
Fantastic, David. Nice to meet you, and thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, great to have you here as well. He's the chief executive officer of Sight Wellness. And, you know, there's so many different modalities to create ease and to identify the interference that we create in our life. And when I talk about ease, you could talk about the influence that we have of being in ease or at calm, that we're not creating this inflammation or interference from our higher self. And stress, as you know, occurs not only during our waking hours, but our sleeping hours as well. I would say, you know, if we're healthy, we get as many wishes a day as we want. If we're unhealthy, we only have one wish. But I also say that people go to bed at night and they wake up more tired in the morning. And it's one of the, I think, most obvious things that we're fighting every day for distress or dis-ease or interference. Now you have extracted a new product that has it's a legal extract that is now in America to help with the restorative process, but also I believe the accessible process when we want to recover, but we also want to access more information at ease so that we can plateau and grow, not live like tubes. Give me an idea, and I hope I can pronounce it right. It's a Amanita muscaria extract.
Close, yeah. Amanita muscaria.
I'm gonna eat Muscaria. I'm from Cabo. I should have got that. Darn it.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, really, it's incredible because it's a new product to market with a mushroom that has been used historically for 5,000 years. So the historic use of this mushroom has demonstrated its potential for health and wellness. And we are the first company to sort of roll up the sleeves and do the scientific work on it. So we spent 2 years doing preclinical studies to determine the safety, the dosage range, the ability to do an extract of this and bring it to market. But to your point, yeah, we look at it as a very powerful tool that you can put in your toolbox to help you get that restorative rest and wake up feeling energized. And that's the market we're targeting with it. So although the mushroom Amanita muscaria is the red and white mushroom, that's probably the emoji on your phone. You'll see it everywhere right now from Super Mario Brothers movie. It's the red and white mushroom in that movie. But it's got that long historical use. And again, we're very proud to be the first to do the science and bring it forward. We received what's called a GRAS, generally regarded as safe, as a route to market to bring it as a food supplement. So as you mentioned, we're now selling it in the United States. We're on Walmart.com. We've got our own Shopify website, and we're just starting to seed it in with traditional distributors across the nation.
I think it's also the mushroom they use in the Smurfs as well. So
Smurfs, Alice in Wonderland, yeah. Like popular culture has done a great job making people familiar with it, but really it's our job now to educate them on what the potential benefits are with this mushroom and how it can, and really provide. You hit the nail on the head when you're talking about people are struggling to sleep, and then when they do sleep, they wake up and they're not feeling re-energized. And we're proud to say that the testimonials we're getting back from our consumers is that not only are they having a longer sleep, an uninterrupted sleep, but they're waking up feeling energized and feeling ready for the day. So it's exciting.
Yeah, no, and it also is about scaling a business. When we talked about earlier in our training, we were talking about the investment phase and knowing your timing and risk tolerance. What was it for you? Obviously, you had a lot of work to do in order to create the business and create the foundation of the business. What for you were some of the criteria when you looked at the timing and risk tolerance of bringing this extract to market in the United States?
Yeah, so it was taking a regulatory path. We're a public company in Canada. We trade both in Canada and the US. And so everything we do was focused on that regulatory path to market because obviously, we're under very stringent guidelines for that. So, it was 2 years of preclinical studies, getting all the scientific studies together. So, as building a business, it's first attracting investors who are interested in the R&D phase and want to support that and bringing, this old compound, but bringing it to the market for the first time. So that was kind of special. And then, transitioning in the last 6 months from a research and development company to a, CPG product company, and then going into, having a product, getting distribution, all the marketing and sales that go with that. So that's a very interesting phase to navigate because you're effectively going from one company into another. And so that's where we find ourselves now, which is great.
And you find yourself personally in a whole different space. You are a traditional finance and builder or scaler of various companies in your career. I find more traditional business people with traditional skills and knowledge applying them to these non-traditional spaces like psyched wellness or other variety of things going on. Did you have any concerns when you were transitioning from that traditional brand person that you were into the psyched wellness space?
I think anyone answering that question saying no would be a liar. As a leader of a company, you question and doubt a lot of things because if you don't, then you're missing something. So I think really it was about surrounding myself with a very strong team. So if you look at my board and my advisory board, I have people that have tremendous experience in every facet of this business as we move forward, and then also adding strength to our operational side as well, and working with people that have that in-depth experience. So my expertise as a CEO and co-founder is structuring, building, raising capital, and picking a course forward with the input from my board and advisors. But really, it's also about finding the right people that excel in their specific expertise and focusing on that. So I don't micromanage my team in that respect. We work collaboratively.
Yeah, working with is the second phase that we talked about earlier today as well. And then looking at the healing properties, there's been these ancient, we'll call them because they've been around so long, ancient proven healing modalities. And it's one thing to go through, the testing process here in America and the regulatory process in America, but it's another thing to say, look, this thing's been healing people for 5,000, 10,000 years, whatever it may be, with very little or no side effects. That seems like a better test, the test of time, than the test of the United States regulatory systems. And I will tell you, certain strains of mushrooms and CBD and other things have held the test of time. What are some of the healing properties to nurture a healthier and happier life with this extract?
Yeah, well, I think I'll just back up for a moment because I think what you said is very important. The historical use demonstrates that this is a safe product that you can move forward, and then using modern science to back that up is also key, especially when you're trying to go from a basement chemist type environment where people are just picking it themselves, making their own extract and selling it, to actually going to a point where you're producing it en masse and looking to sell it in brick and mortar. And so you have to meld those two worlds together. And for us, we recognize quickly that we have something very interesting with this mushroom because although it has psychedelic compounds, it was never scheduled as a drug. So again, we were able to work with it as a food supplement, which allowed us to do these studies, get the grass, and come to market. The benefits that we see from this, and again, we haven't done human trials, so I can't make any specific claims. We can talk about what people's testimonial has been, the anecdotal experience. But the science also suggests as a GABA-A agonist, muscimol, which is the main compound we focus on through our extraction, it helps with pain. It helps with, people had come to us. A lot of our consumers are actually using it to wean themselves off addiction to alcohol and benzos, where the largest portion of our consumer base is using it for stress, anxiety, and sleep. Some people use it throughout the day to help them stay calm and focused and be able to do their work. But the majority of the people we talk to are really looking for help with sleep. And they find that, they've tried melatonin, they've tried CBD, they work, yet they wake up the next morning feeling tired still or feeling a little groggy hangover effect. Whereas with our extract Calm, you find that you wake up feeling energized. And, my chief commercial officer, Matt Singh, coined it best. He goes, Jeff, when we talk to people, if they talk about the price, it's $49.95 for a bottle and that lasts 15 to 20 days, that's a lot of money. You say, well, you spend between $3 and $9 every morning to have a coffee to start your day. You can spend $3 in the evening to end your day and then wake up in the morning. And unless it's just habitual, you probably won't need that coffee to restart your day, to get you energized, because you're going to have this restorative sleep. So our best sales tool is the product. As soon as people try it, they feel it, they understand the benefit of it, and then they come back and order again. And we initially started with a 30 ml bottle, and but 2 months into sales, we created a 60 ml bottle as well at a better price point for our consumers, because our repeat customers were saying, "This works, it's incredible, but I'm spending $100 a month. Can you give me a larger bottle at a better price?" So we introduced the 60 ml at $74.95, and our repeat customers go to the 60 ml bottle. Our first time customers start with 30. So it's an interesting to see that transition. But I think anytime you can help someone with a problem that they feel they haven't been able to get a solution for, they become your best salespeople, because they tell everyone.
Yeah, for sure. Psych-wellness.com. I'm a firm believer in the unwinding routine. Put yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit into a position of recovery and access. That's what Psych Wellness will do for you. Thank you for taking the time and transitioning into the space to empower so many people to wake up, plateau, and grow, instead of end up at the bottom of the hill once again, living as tubes, food in, food out. Improve your life, improve your sleep, utilize Psych Wellness. Thanks, Jeff Stevens. We'll see you soon.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. You got it. Great job. All right, Brandon is up next. Brandon Puffer, author, speaker, and coach, founder of the Brandon Puffer Speaking, Coach Puff Positive. Can you ask for a better name? What's going on, Brandon?
Hey, Dave. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. You have such a great story, and it's so great to see you here. You know, I've dealt with so many different athletes that have faced so many different challenges, and you know, we always see. And I did it economically, great falls. And, you know, your book says it all, from the bullpen to the state pen, on choices, a crash, and the remarkable freedom of grace. And, you know, I will tell you, so many of us are inspired by your story. And I wanted to have you on to talk about not only the story of where grace is available and how, you know, you have made the mistakes, but now we're talking about scaling. You know, my mission in life is scaling people, empowering people to empower people to be happy. And you're one of those people, Brandon. Well, give us a little bit of background on the story, and then let's talk about scaling your story to help others so they don't have to have the worst mistakes of their life. Let us pay the dummy tax.
Absolutely. Yes. It was a very expensive lesson for me, but, you know, hopefully with, you know, vulnerability, transparency, and sharing my story, you know, to your point, I can encourage folks that have either made that big mistake, feel the guilt and shame. Where does life go from here? How do I overcome this? And kind of walk them through that. Or to your point, the ones who are kind of heading down that road and they could have had a wake up call that is much less severe than mine. And so hopefully to encourage them. And the story really goes, you know, as a young boy growing up in Orange County, right down the street from you, as it turns out, I was you know, an athlete. I had a dream, like every little boy, to be a Major League Baseball player. I would achieve that dream by, you know, a little bit of grace and luck and some hard work and all that good stuff. And then my career ended by one bad choice. I went out with the guys one night, knowing that I had that's not the right word, a big problem with alcohol. I didn't handle it well. It ran in my family. And, but again, you had a choice. If you're going to, you know, go out and compromise on what your beliefs are, or do something you don't think is right. And I did that. I made that choice. And that choice cost me a 5-year sentence in Texas Department of Criminal Justice. I would do 3.5 years in prison. It is where I definitely found myself, found my calling. I needed humility and all these different, you know, things that you need in life to be, you know, effective and live in your calling. And I just was so consumed with my career that I really never took a look at all that. So after getting out of prison, after 3.5 years, I started over completely with my life. I mean, financially, every aspect of my life, I started over. And just started over with a grateful attitude. I had learned in there that I had a God-shaped hole inside of me that I was trying to stuff with all kinds of things, baseball, money, whatever the case may be. And I filled it with the right thing when I was in there. And now starting over, you know, humbly, and then watching God restore so many relationships and so many things in my career. And baseball is back in my life, fifth in high school private, and yeah, just basically that's kind of the cliff notes on that. And then, you know, here, fortunately, I have an opportunity now with the book and my story to share that and try to encourage others.
And Major League Baseball is behind you, as well as you work with the Play Ball Initiative and helping to tell your story, empowering others, and, you know, hopefully at least raising awareness to the simple choices aren't so simple sometimes. And the simple things to do are unfortunately simple not to do. And we have to have grace in our lives. But when we scale our lives, we're going to make a lot of mistakes. I talked about forgiveness as one of the values I hire for. And obviously for you, you had to have a real conversation with yourself about forgiveness in order to scale your life, to live with protection and promotion in your life, that you could take something that is so challenging and use it as a catalyst to, you know, literally live a better life in a better situation. And I know just more about you knowing you're living a better life now, even though you're not winning World Series anymore. But more importantly, you're fulfilled. How important was forgiveness in what you experienced, and more importantly, in what you do today?
Yeah, forgiveness is huge, Dave. And I think, like you said, that you alluded to, that starts with forgiving myself. And to be honest with you, that's a daily thing. I have to be very intentional about it because, it's easy for those voices to start putting guilt and shame back on you. And, who are you? Why would Dave Meltzer want you on hit? These kind of like imposter syndrome things, right? Every single day. So it's waking up and going, no, that's the past. What are you doing with your life now? And then also forgiveness of others. I mean, I'm just so grateful that there's people that believe in giving a second chance. I still carry this title on me, and this will be with me for the rest of my life. And it would be easy to just go, you know what, I'm not worth anything. I'm just getting. But what I've noticed is if you own your mistakes, completely own them, you have humility, and you are just open to saying, yes, I blew it, and here's my story. People are really forgiving, and they'll give you grace. Now, if you're just in the same behavior and you're just, hey, sorry, I made a mistake, get over it, then no, I don't think that's going to be the case. But so yeah, just daily forgiving myself, leaning into the ones that have supported me and shown me that grace and forgiveness throughout the whole time really allows me to catapult my day each day in the morning when I go through my routine and look for, hey, what's my purpose today? Those are the things that really catapult me forward.
And you and I have discussed now giving the right meaning to the defining moments of our lives. Me lost over $100 million because I had the same behavior you had, and I just had a different result. Thank God I didn't have to go to prison, but losing over $100 million, was painful enough for me. So giving meaning to the defining moments is important. But there's another area that you help kids with, which I really, in our next guest, we're going to talk about this because he has this amazing Grounded Men event with like Marshall Falk and Tom Bilyeu and Joe Dispenza, like amazing people. But those people talk about something that you do, which is helping kids give the right self-imagery. We limit ourselves. Like you won the World Series, right? You won the World Series. You have to have always had at least an expansive self-imagery. But a lot of kids today, with what they see people like you and I have done in our lives, they can't see it for themselves. And how important is it to give these young kids, whether it's to play after high school or just to be the best that they can be and the most that they can be, the self-imagery to allow them not to limit themselves?
Oh, it's huge. It's the most important part of my role as a coach and mentor, be it baseball or just mentoring young men that are struggling or whatever the case may be. As I get an opportunity to coach baseball and help folks through the recruiting and trying to help them find their next step. We've had several go to great colleges and drafted and things of that nature. Every time, especially as they get older, I coach 17U in the summer, the ability's there, right? Yeah, we're going to fine tune some things and we're going to work, but it's always just injecting that positive mindset into them and that belief in their abilities. And usually that's, it's not just a, hey, be positive. I mean, there's actual, things to do here. It's like, if you want to get stronger, you're going to go to the gym and work out, right, guys? Yeah. So on the mental side of this thing, on the, positive mindset side of this thing, we're going to work on focused breathing, and we're going to work on positive self-talk or mantras, where I'm just going to continue to remind you, who you are and to trust yourself. And yeah, when I played like you, I did have to have that mentality of nobody can stop me. Nobody can beat me. I'm better than you. But then, getting off outside of those white lines, kind of turning that off was my problem of, 10 foot tall and bulletproof. Hey, wait a minute now. That's a good mindset out there, but let's get, it's not just all about you once you get off that field. So, but yeah, to your point, Dave, I mean, just injecting that encouragement in those kids, just remaining, holding them accountable for sure. And the only thing I tell these guys is, look, you can control your effort, your attitude, and your energy. We should not have to coach that. We'll coach everything else. You bring that, and you're going to be the best version of yourself every time. And then at the end of the day, whatever the score says, we can look in the mirror and go, hey, I gave absolutely everything I have. And that's all we can really ask.
Yeah, doing our best, learning lessons, and having fun seem to be 3 criteria for life. CoachPuffPositive.com. Check out his book. It's an incredible way to have the perspective. Whatever you do, we can go from the bullpen to the state pen and right back to the bullpen. thank you for being in the bullpen for all those kids, my friend. Come back and join me. We'd love to see you. Maybe I'll hook you up with the next guest, Saul Beltran, for the Grounded Men event. You are absolutely at our frequency. So thanks for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you so much.
You got it. The incredible Brandon Puffer. All right. We're coming into the closer here. We had the mid reliever in Brandon. Now we have the closer, Saul Beltran. And talk about scaling. This guy scaled an idea, and he came to me. Some fear involved, some interference, and we're a week away. A week from today, we'll be in Santa Barbara at the Grounded Men Retreat. Some of the greatest world thought leaders. Talk about someone who scaled an event. He went from just a nice local event, helping men, to a world-class event. Listen to these names: Tom Bilyeu, Marshall Falk. I'm humbled to be in with those guys as well. But Joe Dispenza. Usually you can't get one of these guys to show up at the same time in the same place. And they're all participating in the Grounded Men Retreat, April 27th next week through 29th in Santa Barbara. And if you're lucky, there's a couple spaces left for anybody out there. But Saul, thank you for scaling the Grounded Men Retreat, because I knew you could do it, but I also knew that you weren't as sure as I was that you could do it.
Yeah, no, man, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you again for having me. It's exciting, man. Look, I've when I first started talking to you about this retreat, I'm like, it's really true to my heart, it's passion, it's purpose for me, right? And I was seeking that at the time. So when I connected with you, I was really just going for it. I was like, hey, man, I really believe in this purpose, this project. I think a lot of men are needing this. The conversations I've had with just all the men that have reached out, it's been tremendous, man. It's like it showed me that there is a need for this, a retreat for men where they can, find a way to align themselves again with things that maybe that they've kind of let go or aren't really connected to. And I thought, my purpose behind this was, if I'm going to do this, I want to work with the best and the biggest experts out in the world. And so to bring this to Santa Barbara next week with these experts that we have in line, these coaches, I mean, it's just a tremendous opportunity. It's very unique. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. Sometimes I get super into and aligned with an event, and it's like a double blessing that I get to be there and to teach, because little I'll be hiding either behind stage or in the back of the room taking voracious notes of what resonates with me. But Brandon Puffer was on before, and I know you were in the green room. He said something that resonated with me that I think was one of the core purposes of your event. He talked about, as men, we're 10 feet tall in between those lines, and it's really hard to turn it off, right? It's and whether you're really good, if you're a major league World Series winner like Brandon, or worth over $100 million or whatever it is, there's still, those lines are narrow. There's a whole world out there. There's your wife and your children and the bars and the signatures and the videos, and there's all this stuff outside those lines that means so much more than winning a World Series. Even though we are socialized to think, man, if someday I could win a World Series, I'll be happy. Mine was, when I was 5 years old, Saul, I told myself, if I make $1 million and buy my mom a house, and this is how old I am, I could buy my mom a house and a car and retire. If I could make $1 million, and everything in my life would be perfect. Two things I learned: one, $1 million wasn't going to do it, and two, it certainly wasn't going to make me happy. And that's what this event means to me. What are some of the things that people are going to do at the Grounded Men Retreat to help them outside the lines?
So this is the main reason I created this group, is to help men realign themselves, but get grounded, right? I think the one thing is when we don't feel aligned with ourselves, we lose our sense of purpose and connections to others, to our families, to our work. So the grounding stuff that we're going to be doing are specifically so men can really feel solid with themselves and build that confidence back within themselves to basically show up as the best version of themselves. Because I really believe that men really need to ground themselves. And by doing that, they need to be around a brotherhood of men that understand exactly what they're going through, or they've been through that, or they can be supportive, right? So you kind of have to have that vulnerability to be able to share that. So with the techniques that we're doing, the fitness expert we have coming in, Peter Park, is one of the best fitness trainers out in the world, right? He's coming in to show them like the mindset of what athletes go through, the people he's trained, and how they grind themselves and how he gets into a certain place. We've got, longevity experts coming in to show them more how to stay youthful and active in their life, right? We've got the biohacking stuff that, guys want to feel like men. So we're going to do some ice, so cold plunging. We're going to do some red light therapy. We're going to do some compression work. There's a lot of different things that we could do to help you stay youthful. But the secret sauce, again, is I was going to say, it's the mindset, man. It's your state of mind. And that to me is everything. So these experts like Joe Dispenza, yourself, Tom Bilyeu, they've been through so many things, and they're going to share their uniqueness of what they've gone through, their stories, their successes or failures with the men, so they can help them relate to like some of the stuff that maybe they're going through, but guide them in those blind spots that they're going through as well, right? And that's the goal, is to realign the men to show up as a better version of themselves. One last thing, at the end of the day, you always joke about this, but I love this. We need to be outdoorsy, and men need to feel alive. So we go to the ranch, we jump on horses, we do some cowboy shit. That's what I love calling it. But really, it's a way to build confidence with yourself, man. So most guys have never really jammed on a horse and really gotten out there, and that's the uniqueness of this project.
Yeah, and it is a brotherhood, and I think it's funny as the pendulum swings. I was a little bit nervous because nobody's doing men's events anymore. They're almost afraid. And look, I know someday you may do a women's event as well, or a co-ed event. I know you're taking a wait list for July and August for our next event. It's going to be killer. But was there any intrepidation of doing a brotherhood men's event and not including everyone?
Yeah, it's I know that my purpose is firstly to start with the men's retreat, but I've had such a big interest in co-ed and women also wanting to do this. So that is a priority for the summertime. But I wanted to get this one really done because I just had so many people interested, especially men, that I was like, I have to do this. And the lineup we have, man, it's beautiful. It's like a perfect group of men that are going to come together, and I'm stoked.
I'm stoked too, and I can't wait to see you next week. And more importantly too, Saul, super proud of you, because I was there from the inceptions, and I know all the trials, tribulations, the interference that's created in order to do something this big. And if it's not proof of what Brandon and I were talking about, is not only do we have to give the right meaning to our past, but we have to clear the interference of the limitations we give to our own self-imagery. And you thought big and did big. And anyone that wants to join us, go to groundedmen.com. I think there's a couple spots left. Is that true?
Yeah, there is some left. So definitely reach out. Absolutely.
We love it. All right, man. I'll see you next week. The incredible Saul Beltran, groundedmen.com. Check out, come join us at our retreat, Santa Barbara, April 27th through 29th. Incredible leaders, incredible men, all grounded to be their best, to learn lessons and to have fun. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
You got it. All right, Jakey Bakey, it is that time. Thank you so much. Let's close out the room, close out training. We've been doing this for over 23 years, believe it or not. Free Friday trainings. If anybody wants my book, my guides on scaling a business, david@dmeltzer.com. Jake, it's all yours. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate it. Be more interested than interesting. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.